So today we're talking about this phrase you may have heard, stay woke, or oh, those woke liberals, oh, woke, everything woke these days. Well, it's a lot. But I mean, what does this mean? Does anybody know, like, when you hear the phrase stay woke, what do you think it means? Aware? I guess we told you at the beginning, but like, what did you think before? What else? Aware. Anything else? Compassionate. Yeah, knowing things can be different for other people. Tolerant, yeah. Does anyone know where this term kind of came from? The Black community. Yeah, definitely. Does anybody know when? Oh, gotcha. But you're right, it definitely originated from the Black community. So, back in 1931, quite a while actually, this term, there was this trial. Has anyone heard of the Scottsboro Boys trial? Okay, we got a few folks. So for those who don't know, this trial happened because on a train from Chattanooga to Memphis, so right here in Tennessee, this was the age where, you know, you would have open boxcars and people would hop in and just ride the train. Oh, what a grungy wonder that must have been. Well, there was a bunch of, a dozen, 24 people on this train, and 9 Black teenage boys boarded. And there ended up being an altercation. The white and the Black people started trying to push each other off the train and saying, oh, this train's only for white people. And really, it wasn't supposed to be for people at all, but whatever. Many of them ended up getting arrested, and 2 of the young white women accused the Black teenagers of sexual assault. So this legal case against these 9 Black teenage boys ended up being tried in Alabama and was tried and retried and ended up at the Supreme Court and then was retried again and ended up at the Supreme Court again, because it ended up being an example of needing a fair trial, fair hearing, because the juries were all white. That's not really a jury of your peers, as we all have the right to have. It became this landmark case. And during the retrials, one of the alleged victims admitted to fabricating the story and asserted that none of the Scottsboro boys touched either of them. The jury still found the defendants guilty, but the judge set aside the verdict and granted a new round of trials. Some of the boys ended up in prison. One escaped and ended up getting pardoned decades later. But it was this really notable instance of injustice against the Black folks in the South. This Black folk singer named Huddie Ledbetter, just a few years later, he was also known as Lead Belly. He was this singer-songwriter, and he did a song, and then in the recording, you can hear him speaking a little bit afterwards. And he talks about the Scottsboro case and advises Black folks to, quote, stay woke, keep your eyes up when you're in the South, because it wasn't safe there for Black folks. You could just be minding your own business and end up getting hurt or arrested. In 2008, the singer Erykah Badu used the phrase stay woke in her song Master Teacher. She sings about imagining a better way of life and repeats, I stay woke, I stay dreaming. She talks a lot about dreams. Then in the early 2010s, the Black Lives Matter protests began, and stay woke became a hashtag. Hashtag stay woke. And it was this call from the Black community to stay aware of racial injustice, to stay apprised of all the things that were unfair, and that until social media and Twitter had kind of started to become popular, were hard to communicate to the mainstream. But because this person-to-person communication was exploding in 2011, suddenly people could share images and videos of these things happening as they happened, and it woke a lot of people up. I liked the description that we used at the beginning of the service from Mahogany L. Brown. What does it mean to be woke? She says it means to be aware, to see your surroundings and challenge how we strengthen our relationship with the government, the community, and nature. To be woke is to fight for your civil rights and to fight for the rights of your neighbors. But lately, the term kind of has turned sour or been co-opted. It's often used to point out performative social justice and what some may call slacktivism. So people, yeah, you may be posting hashtags online, but are you actually helping people? Or are you just trying to, some folks think that it's a way to like steal power, which is a whole other conversation. But I think the criticism about performative social justice is something we could take to heart. Posting a black square as your profile picture or doing a hashtag, they have meaning, but they're not enough, right? But this also gives an example of this pattern of adopting and then twisting black vernacular in what becomes a dog whistle phrase. Do you know this phrase, dog whistle? It's like a code phrase, right? So this is a way that folks, mostly on the right, now will say like, oh, these woke people, because they know they'll get in trouble if they say these anti-racist people. We shouldn't be anti-racist. They'll get in trouble if they say, well, they would have gotten in trouble if they say that. But it's a way to talk about what you're talking about without talking about it. Now, this idea of staying awake, staying aware, has been talked about, like I said, through the decades. And one of the wonderful examples is by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself at the Ware Lecture, which is a Unitarian Universalist event in 1966. So when our denomination was about 5 years old, and at the height of the civil rights movement, we invited him to come speak to us, and he did. And this is what he talked about. One of the great misfortunes of history is that all too many individuals and institutions find themselves in a great period of change and yet fail to achieve the new attitudes and outlooks that the new situation demands. There is nothing more tragic than to sleep through a revolution. And there can be no gainsaying the fact that a social revolution is taking place in our world today. He continues, I would like to suggest some of the things that the church must continually do in order to remain awake through this revolution. First, we are challenged to instill within the people of our congregations a world perspective. He talks about the fact that the world is geographically one, but now it is becoming one in brotherhood. Secondly, it is necessary for the church to reaffirm over and over again the essential immorality of racial injustice. The next thing is to move out into the arena of social action. Now, I would hope that everyone under the sound of my voice tonight will do something in a positive manner, end quote. This is a long, wonderful speech that's available on the UUA website, where he really encourages us specifically, as white liberals, not to sleep through the revolution. What a gift for a message from MLK himself. Now, it's notable that he was a minister. He wasn't just a rabble-rouser or an organizer, not that those are just anything, but he was also a minister, a spiritual leader. And it's notable that this idea of awakening shows up throughout spirituality as well, right? Spiritual awakenings, the Buddha and his enlightenment. I think Jesus in the desert, when he goes into the desert for a while and kind of realizes what he's up against, I think that's kind of an awakening. All throughout the Bible, there's quotes about stay awake and wake up and all this. Even in science fiction, in spirituality within science fiction, you can find it. In the Foundation TV show that's out right now, which is based on book series by Isaac Asimov, they talk about upon awakening. There's a sleeping God, and they want the God to wake up. This idea of waking up is really spiritually important. It's something that a lot of us have experienced when you kind of realize what it's all about. That's usually what we call a spiritual awakening, is that moment of realization of a deeper reality. Now, if you haven't had what one might call a spiritual awakening, a big epiphany, that's okay. That's not required. It's raised up a lot because it's an exciting moment, but just being committed to a spirituality, to a philosophy, that's enough. But here's something to think on if you're maybe interested in trying to have a spiritual awakening or had one if you haven't had one in a while. They can happen multiple times. Here's some questions. What brought you here? What curiosity about the world or about religion made you come today or when you first started? Was it for your kids so they could learn about their neighboring faiths and be citizens of the world? Well, maybe working with kids is your thing. Was it that you've been healing from old spiritual wounds from your youth? Well, maybe it's time for you to recommit to learning about a less shameful and more loving type of religion. Is it community in this age of isolation? Whatever it is that brought you here might be the key to you finding not only what your awakening is, but your woke thing is. The spirituality aspect and the social justice aspect can be connected. What would your higher power, whether it be the universe or God or goddesses or the very ground of being, what does it need you to be awake for in your understanding? What does it need you to stay woke for? What lights up your heart from the inside? What, when you hear about a certain issue, pisses you off and makes you say, that's not fair? You know, that could be your thing. Follow that feeling. Because I know there's also some important issues that are not a good fit for us, right? And that we have to let go of and allow other good people to handle. There's some issues that hurt too much, for me to handle at least. And I've got to trust there's other people handling it. And that faith, that power of humility is actually really special. When I had my spiritual epiphany almost 10 years ago now, it was, for me, with a connection to the universe, with nature. And so I try to always return to that, especially when I'm feeling overwhelmed by all that's going on. This faith that I have, that I am connected to something bigger than myself, that I am not alone, that I am not separate, that I am not wrong, or just because I'm different. And that calls me to do certain work. I want to help atheists understand mysticism, for example. That's one of my passion projects. So what's yours? What's the sound of the alarm that woke you up? Staying awake doesn't mean being perfect or being a superhero who's going to save the whole world. That is too big of an expectation. It means keeping and stoking an awareness of the deeper realities, both of the nature of existence and the social realities, keeping those in your mind, especially when you make important choices. Hey, when you buy a car, what kind of car are you going to buy? Is it going to be more eco-friendly or not? You know, even mundane choices like that can be helped when we are kept spiritually and socially awake. And the fact is that we all fall asleep sometimes, right? Like, if we're going to go with this metaphor, this awakening metaphor, we have to admit that we also as humans need to sleep. We need a nap sometimes. So if wake is the metaphor, then we have to recognize we have to take turns, we have to take breaks. I'm currently on a break from social media. It got to be a bit too much for me. But that doesn't mean I'm on a break from all the important issues that social media was making me aware of, just how it was making me aware of them. The intensity, the tone. It can be important to rest, to return to calm and energy and optimism. We don't have to be awake to all the suffering of the world all at the same time. I think that is too much for any human being to carry. And I think it is a very recent event. Instead, I think it's important for us all to pick the ones that are most important in our hearts and stick with it. And if we're all picking different ones, it's covered, rather than trying to stay aware of everything and being paralyzed by all the overwhelming possibility. So our friends in the Black community have asked us to stay woke to racial injustice, even if it doesn't affect us directly. The earth, I think, is trying to shake us awake with heat and rising water, Something is wrong and you need to wake up before it's too late. If these are issues, any other issues that you are interested in trying to keep our community awake for, there is currently a weekly protest Saturday at noon outside of the library here in Oak Ridge. A lot of our folks have been showing up with homemade signs on all sorts of different issues. And that's the cool thing. We are taking the opportunity to wake the community up for those who maybe aren't tuned in at all. So whatever the issue is that's on your heart, whether it be public education or animal welfare or heck, public transportation, whatever it is, you can come Saturday at noon in front of the library and join your fellow ORUC members, your community members, and just get a little nourishment in connecting with other people who care. So it's up to each of us to look in our own hearts and find the right balance of rest and awakening. We can't handle it all, but we can handle some of it. We have to stay woke. Even when people are out there, this always makes me laugh, even when there's folks out there in our nation right now who just talk about wokeness like it's bad. They declare themselves anti-woke, and it just makes me laugh. Do you hear yourselves? They want us to be asleep. They want us to be passive. The question is, why? What are they trying to pull over on us? But we are not. We are Unitarian Universalists. We have issues with authority. We are stubborn. We are aware. We are connected to each other. And we have power in this community. So, find your issue. Find your spiritual awakening, and wake up others. May it be so, and amen.